I'm still saying one day, Miles, try to listen to the Japanese dub of the Boondocks. It's one of the
Yeah,
funniest things I've ever seen.
I'll check that
Like
out.
everything you just hear, obviously everything in Japanese. Then they get to the N word, and it's they just straight up say, and it's so funny. I don't
They
know
got
why it
to.
hits. I don't
They
know why
got
it
to.
hits the same way, but it's just like it's hilarious. Oh God, one of the funniest things I've
All
ever
right,
come
this is the
across on
first clip.
YouTube.
This is the first clip that we're gonna react to. Not the entire thing, but the first.
Anime removed Studio Puri, which is a Korean animation studio, from the credits following backlash from Korean men after accusing Studio Puri of allegedly sneaking in a gesture that references Korean men's small peepees. And the gesture is this. Yes, it's this. Now, Korean men are claiming that in the opening credits and in some of the scenes that they are allegedly sneaking in this gesture, and they're even going as far as claiming that Jinwoo, the main character who happens to be a Korean man, is also doing this gesture.
I'll stop it there. Lani, do you want to continue
No, so
the conversation?
well, we said before that like how manhwa like I felt for a while that manhwa gets gatekeeped or at least put in the back burner to a lot of these anime studios, and it's not just because like they don't think the stories are good; it's because of the relationships between the countries, and it's like little things like this. Even though, and like she says later on in that video, like I watched the opening, I watched what they're talking about, I didn't see anything, but it's like the relationships between countries affects the market that we get because there are a lot of manhwa that would be crazy animes. Like we talk about manhwa all the time. Like the beginning after end would probably be one of the best isekai. The Boxer would be a crazy sports anime, but because of the issues between the countries and stuff like that, and the discrimination between the countries, we might not get it, or if we do, like they might mess up the story and things like that. And when it comes to South Korea, like they said, like this little gesture or whatever, I guess means that you have a small dick. And but they've actually accused not just with Soul Leveling, they accused this company of doing this with a previous anime as well, saying that they've done this before. And I haven't seen that particular anime, so I can't see if I saw them doing that gesture. I rewatched the Soul Leveling opening. I didn't see this gesture that these men are claiming that they did, but they're also saying now this is where it becomes political. They're saying that this anime company supports the BBB movement, which is South Korea. South Korea is very conservative and old fashioned, and the BBB movement in South Korea is basically like women saying like, hey, they want to have more choices with their body. They want to be able to like date who they want. They basically want more freedom away from like the conservative classical norms in South Korea. Now, also with South Korea, the BBB movement wants to emphasize how like domestic violence is a big issue because the I think worldwide the average domestic violence percentage is 30%. In South Korea, it's like over 40. So almost half of all relationships in South Korea have some sort of domestic violence. So they're attacking. So they're basically trying to make this a political issue, saying like, hey, they're supporting these women. They're like saying that South Korean men are this way and this way, and it's becoming a bigger problem. So now more manhwa. So now it's like the issue is starting to be some of the talks are like, should manhwa just be their own thing separately and not go to these anime companies? So are South Korean companies gonna make their own animes now? Because now it's starting to like the tumbleweed starting to roll, like it's starting to become rolled into a bigger issue.
Well, I've always wondered why South Korea did not try to make something like China makes their own anime. They make their own. Why with South Korea with something as big as Soul 11, which is probably to the casual, that's probably the first thing that they'll hear. Why would you let a foreign company make this, especially since we know that they flipped it, right? And Soul Leveling itself is not immune to this regional beef. We saw how they portray the Japanese hunters in the story. They're downright kind of incompetent
Mm-hmm.
with kind of what they do. And this isn't just there are other manhwas you could watch where they showcase this kind of adversarial relationship that they have. So if that's it, I mean, Lon, I've watched every episode. I haven't seen it, but that's
But
kind of crazy
you
to
see the
kind of.
pettiness between the two countries because in the manhwa, Japan is weak. Now in the anime, the main character is now in Japan and no longer in Korea, and he's not.
Oh, he's already in Japan. Are you serious?
Yeah,
That's
It's
how
based in
that's what
Japan.
they
It's
did.
not
Yeah.
based in Korea. It's
it's
based
based
in
in
Japan.
Japan.
That's how they changed the story.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So
so you see the pettiness. You see the pettiness.
so I
So now,
thought like I
Bro,
think what they're
I
gonna do is they're just gonna
mean,
flip it. They're just gonna flip
so
it. So
they basically just flipped it. So now
that's what
so imagine. So if we see later on that all the weak S rank hunters are now Korean, that's going to cause even more issues between the countries.
and
I've-
Lonnie, don't forget
I
there's
already-
the other part where the Japan contracts an American in the Soul Living story to save them from like a really big gate that breaks. So they call one of the best American S rank hunters to save them, and then that guy kind of fails, even though they also showcase Americans bad like because that guy's like, I need the money. It was an American or Russian, I can't remember. He's like, I need the money. So he gets the money first before he does anything, which kind of I always thought I'm like, if he doesn't start working right away, it doesn't get as bad as it gets. And then Sun Jin-woo pulls up and saves the day in the manhwa. So I'm like, if they're gonna flip them like that, low key, because Japan, when you first see the Japanese hunters, they start talking to the South Koreans from a position of strength. Like, we're better than you. We have better hunters. Even our strongest hunter is better than your strongest hunter because in the story, one of South Korea's S rank hunters betrays South Korea and becomes a hunter for the U.S. So that's what happens. So it looks really bad
yeah,
because they only go to Japan twice in the story, right? Technically,
So it's
I
like,
don't remember. Miles, you asked something?
no, I was like now
I was
it's
scratching my ear.
Okay.
yeah. So now like they're getting politics involved. They're getting now the company remove them off the credits. I don't even know if that's legal. Can you just like remove people off the credits because they don't like what you said? So now it's starting to like become bad business. And so like are all the like now it's like it might affect future other manhwa being animated because it's like the trust and relationship between these businesses is starting to like crumble. So this is not looking good for like not just solo leveling, but like the future of manhwa being animated. It's not a
that's
good
what we
stuff.
said. Either way,
Yeah,
at least
for
I
the
said that either way. Either way, Solo Leveling will have an effect on the future of manhwa, especially since it basically does deal with real life places. I think beginning after the end might still be okay because it's a fantasy story, so I still think people can get away with that. But if you're dealing with more actual places like that base themselves in reality, I think you're kind of cooked.
They just greenlit omnipotent reader, but like if they're like now what company's gonna get that? Like, are they gonna like strong arm that company? Are they gonna change things? Like, so it's just like now.
well, it really depends on like how South Korea's laws dictate self-made creators and the I guess technically depending on if the manhwa series are licensed to a certain company, how South Korea deals with them making certain relations with companies outside the country.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I mean, like Random said, I also said that it was gonna be an issue. The moment I heard that they're gonna change it to Japan, I knew that it's gonna be an issue. And this is petty, but this is just the tip of the iceberg. It's just the tip of the iceberg, to be honest.
Credits, like I don't remember the last time something like that's happened. Definitely not like an anime, like where you piss them off and like you're just off the credits, so you just don't you're no longer recognized.
That's wild.
I think
Could they-
overall it'll be fine though, because like Tower of God is still cooking, and Tower of God will be fine. God of High School, I'm sure they're gonna want to bring that back and do whatever they got to do with that. I'm not too omnipotent reader from from what I remember.
I don't
doesn't really
remember them
deal with
leaving like the
politics.
country. Yeah, I don't
I
think they
mean-
leave the country in omniscient.
But
Well, actually,
they're
they
saying like, oh,
do-
they're doing the jester or they're doing this, they're making this
Hold-
reference.
Hold on. Actually, I take that back. Omnipotent reader 100% deals with countries. I completely
No, they do, but do they leave Korea at all in the story?
well, yes, they do leave Korea. One, and two,
Okay.
they interact with other countries. I guess you could say heroes in the
Oh
story.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Well,
but
well
it's
what they
never.
did with Soul Leveling, and now it's South Korea, they're in Japan again.
that will ruin the story a lot because there's a
Mhm.
lot of mythological connections. Because
Mhm.
how Omnipotent Reader works is there's the characters and then there's people who sponsor them. These are gods. So these are gods that are connected to specific mythologies. So you can't have a series where the main gods connected to your main cast is different gods. You would have to change the story on its head. So that
Jeez.
legit won't work for Omnipotent Reader. Like it would be worse if they change Omnipotent Reader than it would be for Solo Leveling. I'm being
Mhm.
completely honest.
Mm.
So if
No,
they
no,
do
you
that,
no, no,
that's
he's
gonna ruin the
right.
story.
He's absolutely right on that.
It'll ruin the story. So it's
That's
gonna
too.
that's tough.
Could they not? I'm always curious to see how Solo Leveling made it to that Studio Pro and whoever else is animating it got there. Because if I was Netflix, this is a whole untapped market nobody's in. You've already
Yeah, and they're
shown that you're good enough with anime enough to get good enough anime on your platform. I would have been like, send me all of them. Send me all
you
of them,
need
South
some
Korea.
W's because
Solo
Avatar's
Leveling.
tough.
Oh, if they were like, you can only watch Solo Leveling here. Do you know how many Netflix is already kind of killing it already? But do you know how many people would be like, I'm buying Netflix just for this alone? If
Mhm.
they wanted to go beginning after the end, obviously you got to work on your episode things. They're like 8 episodes for some reason. I'm like, not with this. But I really think they could have worked on this.